I'm going to give a 10-minute period for questions. We won't overstep that, but if anybody does have any questions, if they'd like to say who they are, who they represent, and ask any of the panelists here that question, that would be the format. Thank you. Any questions?
Particularly in Brussels, because this is a big scam against Europe. Equally like Mr. Tsavlis, I come from Greece. I come from the island of Chios in the Aegean, which is the focal point over the last 3 summers now there. And we are very sort of afraid, not only on the island, but over here in Europe, of the destruction of the social cohesion. So it's time that when the politicians in Brussels, headed by Mrs. Merkel, with all due respect, they have to put an end and avoid all this that we are suffering, because this is real suffering. So I want you to know how best you can promote, let's call it the interest of human rights, and of course, conversely, the rights of everybody. We cannot suffer anymore. How best we can do it? What are you addressing the politicians?
Is this on? Yes. Okay. As I said, we see ourselves stuck in the middle, doing a role but not providing a solution. We are now exercising our voice and using it where we can. For example, we had a Sky News team on one of our vessels last week with a pretty difficult rescue. 7 people died, and that then sadly brings it into the news again. So we use those opportunities to call for a political solution because we believe there is no force-based or border control solution. People are coming, and we cannot stick our heads in the ground and ignore it. We cannot hide behind barbed wire, and we can't wait much longer because, yes, I think there is perceived to be in some places social cohesion issues. Sadly, I think the change recently through Brexit and so on has now allowed certain elements, whatever you want to call, to come to the fore. So we're seeing the horrors of people of different nationality being beaten up here, people having their headscarves set on light in New York. This whole rightward swing of the body politic is a dangerous time, and dangerous time for migrants, because that is based on a sort of fortress Europe. We can deal with it, and the reality is they can't. They won't be able to do. 250,000 people are sat in Libya. They're coming. Whether we try and stick boats in between them and push them back, whether we pick them up, they're coming. All we do is reduce the numbers who die on that journey. So we use our voice, we exercise our voice, our right to say things and our duty to say things, and our duty to continue to call on the body politic in Europe as a European issue, not just a southern European states issue, which it has been to date, to find a common, humane, rights-based, legal approach.
Are you sure about the figures you mentioned? Because my figures in Northern Africa, and particularly Libya, are on millions. And on the Anatolian coast of Turkey, there are 3.5 million still pouring in. We all know how. The figures are very important.
Well, I mean, the figures are large, whoever you take. So if you take Frontex figures, they are enormous because they basically count everybody who used to work as a migrant labourer in Libya, add a bit, and then come out with a figure which isn't based on reality. The UN IOM figures, which I've quoted, are at least based on a count. They are probably an undercount, but how much by, I wouldn't like to say that. They may be 50% under, but whatever, whether it's 250,000, 500,000. There's a large number of people coming. There has to be a political solution to that. that situation and this current migrant phenomenon that we're facing. And that cannot be based on a fortress Europe, because people are coming. They'll filter in slowly, and more will die on the way. And whether you want to turn people back, send economic migrants back, that's fine. But then they must be treated rightly, given the right to claim asylum. If that is rejected, they need to be removed back where it's safe to do so.
Thank you very much. We've got time, I'm afraid, just for one question in order to keep, but we can speak to the people during the coffee break. Please. If it's a short question, we can get another one in.
Hi, Sean Maloney here. We've had the news about the Hanjin collapse, and whether this is going to be the start of a number of big name casualties as far as the companies are concerned. We're hearing that ships are avoiding going into port because they're going to get arrested. Two questions, and please answer very quickly. Do you think this is are you fearful this is going to encourage an escalation and abandonment of seafarers as this whole shipping industry starts to correct itself as far as the crisis is concerned? Second point, also on the migrant issue. Next year is the European Commission and Community's Year of the Sea. And we talk about the migrants. We don't talk about the hard job that the seafarers have to do in actually being called upon to rescue these migrants and actually getting no recognition and reward for that. Are you concerned that the Commission is not really tackling it from a seafarer's point of view? Thank you.
George, that's probably one for you. Okay, please keep it.
Well, Sean, I'll try to answer first your second question. Intermanager was very instrumental with European Union. If you remember, I think you were part of it. I think it was 3rd of March 2015 when we said enough. Because until 3rd of March 2015, there was no other ships but our merchant ships rescuing. And we were talking about 85,000 migrants picked up by seafarers on board of the ships. We created a forum, went to European Commission, asked the members of parliament. Malta was very helpful with that, and did the seminar. And from that, I wish to say, we were able to change the political scene a bit, and Navy and others came along. So that was good. Now, answering your first question, I think Hanjin case will put MLC into test. MLC and a lot of flag states are saying there is no problem. We've got policies, we've got insurance, everything is honky-dory. We will see, because Hanjin indeed is a good company. I've got no doubts that they've got insurance in place, and if anything happens, seafarers will be treated okay. But that's probably wishful thinking on my part, and I'm bound to do that, because who, if not Hanjin? If they don't provide for the seafarers, then it will be a crisis situation indeed. And as you rightly point out, I think shipping industry will start thinking, is MLC just a lip service, or is addressing the issue indeed? Thank you.
Can I just add to that 1 minute, please?
Please.
On the second question, I would tend to, unfortunately, disagree with you, because with a company of Hanjin's magnitude, these big companies, when you have these scenarios, they're overwhelmed by legal firms. And as you know, lawyers make money out of not finding solutions. Mm-hmm. And that's their income, basically, without being too offensive. But the problem is Hanjin is so big. That's the truth, unfortunately, ladies and gentlemen. But the problem is Hanjin being so big, it'll be a large process, a company of Hanjin's magnitude, plus the spin-offs, because the other problem we're going to have with these ships is that Hanjin, for example, is a very major time charter. You're going to find a ship operator, or a ship owner who probably has got a $50–60 million ship who has a massive debt service in which you can't pay. So if his income is seized, he's going to have the same problem. So you're going to have a big spin-off effect, which I think it will cause a massive disruption about the time when it actually occurs until the seafarer actually gets his earned money in his bank account. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to break there. I'm just going to extend us by 5 minutes, so can I have everybody sat back in here at 5 past the hour? And the next session will be Business and Human Rights.